In this video we shall be looking at PQI Air Cam. The Air Cam is a small lightweight camera that is designed to go where someone is performing extreme activities, sports, etc. A niche that is growing very rapidly these days. Video is easily shared via social media. It's just a matter of getting the video recorded and uploaded. So the answer to such a need is in cameras such as these. Simple to use, easy to mount in various places, in various ways, and start recording. So let's look at the camera. In the front there is a brushed aluminum panel a little bit, and there's a button that turns on the camera, and that's the menu button to do various menu operations. On the top there's the action button which starts the recording or takes a picture, etc. And there is the lens on the right side at the front face, which also bulges out a little bit. And towards the right there is the rubberized cover, beneath which there is the USB connector, a mini HDMI and the SD card slot. There's a 4GB class 10 SD card also included in the package. I recommend that you get class 10 SD card as well because the camera records in full HD 1080p. All the other side of the cameras are pretty much plain. At the back there is the cover for the battery compartment, and that's about it. At the bottom most other cameras have screw mounts for mounting on tripods. This camera does not, which is something that I did miss. Dimension wise it is pretty compact, as you can see. It is about the size of a car key, and I have carried it in my pocket without any issues. The camera also comes with a waterproof casing. Now this is specified to be waterproof up to 3 meters, which is plenty for snorkeling and things like that. All you have to do is place the camera in it, close the hatch and press the lock in place, and you're good to go. There is also another mount that was applied that is for attaching to a surface using adhesive. Both are fairly sturdy mounts. This particular one that you see is the bike mount, and it can be rotated 360 degrees. And in the website there is a list of many other types of mounts that is available, but these are the two that was provided in the packaging, and the designers have taken into consideration that various different types of mounts may be used and they can be detached from one and placed into another and so forth. But they have included just enough to get us started with the waterproof housing and the bike mount and so forth, so that we can start using it immediately without needing to buy separate packs of accessories. As for the video resolution, the highest is Full HD 1920 by 1080p, and that it does in 30 frames per second. However, the 1280 x 720p it can do in 60 frames per second, so we have some room for slight slow motion, but it doesn't do any more than that. Below that there are other settings for smaller file size. There is also a time-lapse feature which allows the camera to take photos after every 3, 5, 10, 30 or 60 seconds, and with that you can create something like this. The specification also mentions that the viewing angle is 170 degrees, which is fairly wide, which means that you can get a lot in one frame. So what you see is a result of that, though some video editing is necessary to get this result. Now this is the same picture as we saw just now, except we've zoomed in a little bit. There is a lot of grain even in broad daylight, and the edges are not sharp at all. The pixels are quite separate. By the time we zoom into 100%, a lot of detail is lost, so much so that it can be easily seen. Next is the low light performance. Now here what we see is a campfire, and there is still a lot of sunlight left, hence the color is very nice. There's light balance and so forth, though some amount of grain is quite clearly visible. But once the sun goes down, the amount of grains that is visible is a lot more, and the overall color is a lot faded. So due to this, even though during night there may be lights on and things may be visible, but the video will contain plenty of noise grains. However, during the day when there's plenty of light around, the video is quite acceptable. The colors are nice and vibrant and there is sharpness and clarity in the picture. So the conclusion here is that still pictures not very good and low light video not very good. Other than that, daylight video fine. So once we take those into consideration, mostly the usage is fine. Over here we can see that I've mounted the camera on top of my car, and some road vibrations do make it through to the camera and affects the image. It jitters a little bit, but overall it's reasonably smooth. Now those of you who's gonna mount it on a race car or something and a lot of vibration is expected, this is something similar to that. The rough road over here is causing more vibration. That is something that cannot be helped. Perhaps a shock mount or something of that nature may reduce the vibration, but in general the video is very much usable. With some minor modification, I also managed to mount the camera on top of a pole, and holding it upside down, this is the kind of result we can achieve. Now if you saw someone in the park with a camera mounted at the end of a pole chasing ducks and fell into the pond, yeah, that was me. But don't worry, the camera didn't get wet. So while I was there, I thought, why not video some fish swimming by, etc. But the murky water of the pond made it quite difficult to video fish. You can see the shadow of the fish swimming by, but nothing to be seen, so I went to the river. At the river, the water should be a little bit clearer, and hopefully, if we get lucky, we can see something down there. It did turn out that the river water was a little bit clearer, and the sunlight made it possible to see what's down there. But what's down there is basically barren land. There wasn't any life form there, no fish, nothing, until I found one little fella. It was a little crab which appeared to be really territorial. It was waving its claw open and appeared to be putting up a fight. I could see it from the surface, but unfortunately at the time I did not know that it was not being framed in the shot properly. What a miss. So the waterproof housing makes it a very nice shell, which is not only waterproof and dustproof and so forth, it also will absorb some amount of impact, protect the camera before it breaks. So with the shell, the ruggedness is somewhat tested, and as demonstrated, there are various usages that we can put the camera through. It has its own pros and cons and so forth, but overall this does a few things that I couldn't do with my SLR before, that's for sure. So let's talk a little bit about pros and cons. Cons first. Low light performance is not great, as we mentioned earlier. Still images are okay for sharing online and so forth, but not detailed enough for printing and zooming in. Pros. Waterproof housing is included in the package, which will not only protect the camera while the user is being adventurous, it will help in mounting in different ways too. And on that note, the easy mounting makes it ready for your surfing, biking, climbing, racing, diving, going to the moon probably. It is very simple to use. You don't have to worry about ISO settings or aperture or focusing, etc. Just point and shoot. PQI is a well-established brand as well, and that shows in the overall build quality of the camera. Costs about $180, which makes this a great value for money and more agreeable to non-professional folks making action videos. Now we can't finish the video without actually showing the GoPro Hero 3, which is pretty much at the forefront of this genre, and the advantages of that is that it can do 120 frames per second in 720p, which will allow for some slow motion, and the overall image quality is much better and it is more resilient to low light noise. So a lot of advanced users use it, and also professionals, but it costs about $400. That's twice as much more. As far as usage goes, I definitely see the point. All the photography gear that I already have is going to stay just there. It's not replacing anything, but rather it's an addition. Let me explain that a little bit more. This here is a dolphin that I videoed a few years ago on top of a boat. Now imagine if I had the same pole and the camera with me and I was able to dip the camera under the surface, what would the video look like? and I intend to make that video sooner or later. That's in my list. And that's what happens. We have new tool and it brings in new possibilities with it. I'm sure it will do similar for many other people as well. Those who do various types of sports. If you can mount a camera somewhere, you are the action star. If those shortcomings that we mentioned earlier does not get in the way of what you want to do, this is actually quite a nice product to have. Thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave a thumbs up if you would like me to go back to the river and find that awesome crab. See you in the next video. Bye for now.